to order this select board meeting of
No,
August
what?
27th.
Try again.
August 27th, 2024 at 6:30 PM. This is an in-person meeting at 138 Main Street, Wenham, Mass., first floor. As a convenience to the public, it is available electronically via the Zoom link below or via HW Cam for viewing and participation. In the event of a technology failure, the meeting will continue in person. Please be advised that this meeting is being broadcast live via Zoom. It's also recorded for playback video on demand viewing at hwcam.org. Please note that other than call to order, all times are estimated. Anyone want a second?
Second,
Second?
opening of the meeting?
Oh, second.
Give a second.
All right. Roll call. Peter Clay, yes.
Deirdre Peretti, here.
Ben Timon here.
Karen Anger here.
Gary Cheeseman here.
All righty, let's talk about public input. 10 minutes is reserved for public input, 2 minutes per person. A person may speak only once. All participants wishing to address the select board during public comments may do so in person or via Zoom by virtually raising their hand. Speakers must identify themselves by name and street address. The select board may not deliberate or vote on matters discussed during public comment but are not on the agenda. And I just want to say that we're going to talk about three. If anybody wants to talk about 3A, you got to do it at this time now. Go ahead.
Larry Oak from 19 Longfellow Road, Wenham. Good evening. So I had a little piece of paper all written out, but I didn't bring it. So anyway, I'm concerned that we didn't do enough pre-work before this. I'm always concerned about a law getting written without public knowledge and access, because I always want to say it, it's the United States of America, free country, government of the people, for the people, by the people. So, to have laws that come up like this and we don't know about, and then all of a sudden you start finding out, because I'm always like calling people, and Courtney's pretty involved, and you get let down, so you get angry, but you want to talk about it and see why would we do something if we don't have the infrastructure to back it up. Like, we're already in trouble with septics, and we all know that. Everybody's been saying it and stuff in this town. But I mean, to add as much as we're talking about without really doing any real investigation is if it's going to benefit the community. That's what I'm probably most concerned about. So the water and sewage, people can say that, well, we'll work it out, but it'll eventually just become another tax item, is the way I look at it. So I would really like to strongly support the amicus brief that Hamilton said they would do in the town of Wenham. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Courtney Ashwood, 49 Porter Street in Wenham. My email is on the agenda for this evening, so thank you for taking the time to talk about it tonight. My main concerns are similar to what Larry just said, but the law, was created at the state level. I don't remember, as a citizen of the state of Massachusetts, ever voting on that law, but now it is impacting me because we are being mandated to put the zoning, in the town or suffer penalties. So that doesn't feel very democratic to me. I'm glad we get to vote on it. I would like to see all the boards in town really explaining to citizens the difference in a district that is subject to state zoning law versus local. I think citizens deserve to know that risk. And then lastly, it feels like you guys have stated your support because we need this kind of housing, but planning board says there's no way this kind of development will happen. So that's a conflict, and I think the board should be on the same page. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A lot of people have a lot of very strong feelings about this. All right,
Mr. Chair, point of order.
yes.
So on the agenda, under correspondence, we have Ms. Ashwood's 2 letters, and I think that was going to be the place where, as board members, if we wanted to speak to those letters, that we could, and I wonder if it would make sense to take those items out of order and deal with them now, given that Ms. Ashwood and Mr. Oak are here and the subject's been raised in open comment.
I'm fine with that.
Great. So I do have a couple.
But-
Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's going to be one way. We can.
Oh, okay. Yes, I think that's right, yeah.
Have we closed open comment? Because I want to run up.
Yeah, is there anyone else?
Anyone on Zoom wants to raise their hand for public comment?
You want to speak, right?
Yep.
Please.
Okay. Karen Anger, 200 Topsfield Road. I'm speaking as a citizen and not necessarily as a select board member. I wanted to say thank you to Lorraine Durr and the Hamilton Wenham Library for executing an amazing reading program for the kids this year. They have incorporated several businesses. They have made amazing strides in getting kids engaged and getting kids excited about reading. My daughter alone spent every week, every Monday for about 5 weeks, driving around town looking for Scout, if anybody has seen him. These are the little pages. We looked for this little guy. If you found him, you were able to enter a potential winnings into an app. The kids get very excited. They endorse the businesses. They look forward to getting prizes and getting recognition from the library. I just want to make a mental note, not one business in Wenham accepted this. Their requirement for the business to participate was to put this item into a window of their business. That is it. They were not expected a monetary amount. They were not actually asked to participate in adding Scout as the mascot to any of the windows. Not one business in Wenham participated. They were asked, including the post office, and not one accepted. I find that unacceptable. I find that really discouraging, and I would really look forward for next year for Wenham as a town to participate in not only supporting the library, but to supporting our children. It's completely unacceptable. That's all I want to say.
Back to you.
Sure, unless there are other public comment. I saw a couple people walk in, so I don't know if there are
Yeah.
other public comment.
Anyone else? Don't see anyone on, is there anyone?
No hands on Zoom either.
Nope. Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make a few comments about 3A. So I've tried to be really careful in reading what everyone has submitted to our board and other boards about the MBTA Communities Act and 3A. And also I've listened in, either attended virtually or in person, a lot of the information meetings and the planning board meetings and so on. I think what we all should be able to agree on is that as we go into the special town meeting, we should go in as informed as possible and understanding what the actual facts in front of us are. And I've heard a lot of things written and said that just aren't factual, and so I wanted to address some of those things from my perspective. So just stepping back, this is a statute, a law that was passed in the legislature by your representatives and everyone's representatives here. It passed the Senate 40-0, and it passed the House 143-4. So that was the MBTA Communities Act, passed with a huge majorities, including by our representatives. It wasn't a statewide ballot initiative, as everyone knows, and so that's the process. The legislature passed this act. Governor Baker signed it in January of 2021. Now it's, being implemented, and people in towns across the MBTA communities area are, rightly concerned and have the ability through town meeting votes to vote on the particular zoning proposal. The state agency, Department of Housing and Community Development, which is now Department of Housing and Livable Communities, issued guidelines based on the statute. Those guidelines had a lot of detail, which the planning board in our town for 2+ years, with the help of people like Margaret Hoffman, have been grappling with to try to comply. And the Attorney General of the state said that her office will enforce that law. So when we get information submitted to us saying that we took oaths to follow the law of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and that somehow we're not doing that by not trying to take a stance against the law, that's incorrect. We are following the law. It's a state law. The AG has said that she's going to enforce it. Now, as everyone knows, it's in front of the Supreme Judicial Court, and that case is going to be argued in October. And the SJC may throw out portions of the law. If they do, then they'll tell us what is or isn't the law. But right now it's the law, and our planning board and our planning department here has been doing, in my view, the right thing for the last 2 years in complying with the law. And I think that, you know, if someone were to say to a citizen of the town, Prop 2.5, that's a law, but, you know, let's make it optional, let's not comply with it, I don't think people would agree with that. This is a state law. We took an oath to uphold the laws. Now, it's also been said that because some of the challenges to 3A involve constitutional challenges, that somehow that should drive what we're doing. The briefs in front of the Supreme Court are filed. They lay out the arguments by the town of Milton. None of the arguments have anything to do with the U.S. Constitution at all. There isn't an argument that's being raised that this somehow conflicts with the U.S. Constitution. Even if there were such an argument, it's an argument. It's a challenge to the law. So I think I read something that said, you know, we took an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution, and because this law is being challenged on constitutional grounds, that we should, you know, take that side. That's wrong from a couple of standpoints. One, because it's a challenge, it hasn't been decided by the courts. And two, as I said, there is no U.S. constitutional challenge to this law. As far as the state constitution goes, if you read the briefs, and you can go to the following website, ma-appellatecourts, all one word, .org/docket/SJC, all caps, -13580, or just Google Massachusetts Appellate Courts, and you can search for the Town of Milton case. One of the names is the last name Atchue, A-T-C-H-U-E, first name Joe. You can search for it in that search engine. The briefs are there. They lay out what the arguments are. They're very arcane arguments. They're arguments about, do the guidelines exceed the scope of the statute? They're arguments about, should the court do a balancing test with respect to the Home Rule Amendment to the state constitution, which was passed, by the way, in 1966. It's a relatively new amendment to the Constitution for the state. And it says in it that the legislature controls zoning, as they do under 40B, for example, the state statute, 40A. And the legislature delegates certain zoning to cities and towns, as we know, because cities and towns set their zoning districts and their zoning bylaws. But these are not arguments that raise fundamental constitutional issues. They're pretty technical arguments, and the SJC is going to make a decision, and we'll have to follow the decision that they make. Finally, with respect to what the planning board is proposing, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves in terms of special town meeting, but I hope people will read carefully what the planning board has proposed, because I hear things about doubling the town population and millions of dollars being added to the school budget. That's a fiction. It's just not true. The two districts that are being proposed as compliant with 3A are a lot behind Hamilton Plaza, 13 units per acre density. So there could be around an 80-unit multifamily property there if a developer proposes something and if it passes. It could be mixed use, which might lower the density. So essentially you could have a expanded Hamilton Plaza with some housing back there. The second lot is Boulder Lane, which the town owns about 60% of. So the town will get to control what actually is built there to a large degree. And we know it's a notoriously difficult site to develop, There have been task forces going back since, the time I moved here in 2003 and probably before that, figuring out how can we develop Boulder Lane. It's very difficult to develop. And we've all heard about the challenges. We know about the challenges for water and sewer. And so those things might not be available for a developer. But those are the lots we're talking about. In my mind, those are modest changes. Now, you can go to town meeting and you can vote for it or against it. You might think that the way that the planning board, which hasn't taken a formal recommendation on this yet, but the way that they've preliminarily proposed that the town comply with 3A, I think it's responsible, sound, and modest. Other people may disagree. Other people may say there's a better way to do it. But I think we should go into that process thinking about, is this the best way to comply with a law? Unless the SJC tells us it isn't a law. Not, let's find a way to not comply with the law, because I don't think many people would agree with that in other contexts. So in any event, I wanted to put that out there from my perspective, because I think there's been a lot of information that I've read and heard that just isn't accurate. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Ben. Any other comments?
I have a couple.
What do you do?
Yeah.
All right, Deirdre.
Thank you, Ben. That was very helpful, for sure. I think one of the things that I've read and heard in some of the various materials that have been around town and
Speak up, please.
that have been around town and on Facebook and so forth, is I think that there's a lot of confusion or difficulty understanding what home rule actually means in Massachusetts. And I can say that I've certainly struggled with understanding it myself. I spent a lot of time sort of reading it, reading the law, trying to understand what it means and where the limits are. And what I think is that there's a perception among a lot of people that the powers of municipalities, of towns like ours, are much more than what they actually are. And it may be helpful to have someone who's actually a municipal lawyer explain this better than I can. But I think that there's a fundamental sort of confusion over what home rule is and where sort of the line is between powers of municipalities and the power of the state. My understanding is that home rule for municipalities only extends so far as it does not bump up against the laws of the state, and the state retains most powers, right? So that there's actually not a lot of power that's actually given to the municipalities. I actually think municipalities should probably have more power than what we do, but that's not relevant here because it's about where that line is. So I think there's a lot of arguments about if we comply with the law, we're giving up home rule, and I think that that's not accurate. You can correct me if that's wrong. One of the things the home rule, one of the primary things, as I understand it, the Home Rule Act did was to allow towns to create town charters, which is a form of government where you literally have a charter that governs your town, contains your bylaws and so forth. Wenham does not even have a charter. We simply have bylaws. So we're not even sort of at that rung of town government. All right, so I think these distinctions are important for people to understand. When we're talking about we're giving up home rule, we're not, in fact, giving up home rule because we don't have as much authority as people think that we do. Okay, the state retains that power. And I think also the amicus brief issue, I read the Hamilton brief. Like Ben was saying, there are very specific sort of arcane legal arguments. I'm not sure what it would lend itself to for Wenham to try to do the same thing. From all the searching that I did, it appears that only 2 towns are working on amicus briefs to support the Milton side of this argument, and that is Hamilton, and the other one is Middleborough. They're being authored by the same attorney from KP Law. So I did not find the Middleborough brief, but I imagine that there's a lot of similarities. I'm not sure what Wenham could independently add to that debate, and there would be a cost, a literal cost for us to actually do that and undertake that. And I'm not sure what we could add to these legal arguments that hasn't already been said by this attorney on behalf of 2 other towns. from all the searching I did, I couldn't find any other town that was looking to file an amicus brief on this issue. I don't know if you're aware.
No, I'm not aware of any others.
So I wanted to make those 2 points specifically.
Thank you. Gary?
Yes, just want to check that the planning board still has one more public meeting on the schedule. Is that correct or not?
It is.
Yes. So the public still has that opportunity to provide those inputs, but I also hope that we have a good turnout at the November 16th town meeting, special town meeting. And also I would, reading some of the emails and social media, that people shouldn't be jumping 2 or 3 steps down the line and creating scenarios that, just are not in the realm of possibility right now. So let's focus on the fact that we're just creating 2 zoning areas. The planning board has spent almost 2 years looking at the best choice for those and coming forward with a recommendation. And then the town as a whole, as Ben said, we need to educate ourselves and come into that meeting ready to vote rationally.
Yeah, I just wanted to take an opportunity to say thank you to Courtney and to Larry for providing information and to sending emails directly to the select board on a regular basis. We read things that are posted on social media and posted socially that are completely inaccurate, and people don't take the time to send that information to us. So I just wanted to say thank you for taking that option, and to suggest that people continue to do that and to reach out to the select board. And if there are questions or if there are topics that need to be brought to the forefront, that they do that. And I just want to commend both Courtney and Larry for doing that.
All right, thank you.
She has one question.
Oh,
I'm sorry. It's just that I had a list of questions at the end of the email, and it sounds like you guys
Oh,
are
yeah.
wrapping it up. Can I at least get a written response to those questions? You only addressed the constitutional part.
Yeah, Steve, that's the draft, right?
Yeah, if you want to, you can read off it, or
Yeah, maybe.
we're going to be putting it on the
So
website.
there's a draft Q&A document that has made the rounds, that a representative of the planning board worked on with the town administrator. And I don't know that it's ready to publish yet, but it will be published, and it addresses many of the specific questions that you raised.
Yeah, I think it includes all of the questions specifically that Courtney had in her email, if I remember correctly. So we just got the draft now.
Yes,
Steve,
so
you wanna-
we use this opportunity or email to start a Q&A similar to what's going on with the Cutler School project. And, we're going to use it as a tool that we can actively update as we get questions. We can, work internally and through the boards to get, sort of the town's official response. And so your questions, along with a few others that we've received, will be up on the website by the end of the week with, with the questions from the town stance.
Yeah, and I just want to echo what Karen said, and I appreciate Courtney and Larry are always very polite and respectful when you talk with us, and I appreciate it being able to have the dialogue. And I think it's important because I understand that this is very anxiety producing. It could potentially bring change. Those things are very anxiety producing for all of us. And I do want to echo what Ben said also, that we do take our jobs very seriously here and really try to parse out the issues and try to make the best decisions for the town. But thank you for engaging with us.
all righty. Reports and announcements, starting with you, Steve, please.
A few status updates this evening. First is Town Hall, the electrification of the Town Hall HVAC. Last time we left it, the board authorized us to move forward with not pursuing geothermal, and due to time restraints. However, when I reached out to the vendor that was going to do the design build the next day, they were suddenly unable to fulfill the request within the time frame that we had. So we have, with the help of Vicky, we've identified another consultant. They are taking a different approach, and we're going to be including geothermal as part of the study. And the other part of this that is interesting and I think is going to benefit the town is it's going to be the potential to enter into what's called an energy services arrangement with essentially an energy consultant, who this individual or these groups of vendors are, that allows the town to pay the difference of, what's left over after grant funding and available funding that the town has already appropriated through energy savings over the life of, 10 years of the project. So it's essentially this company saying that, we're projecting that you're going to save $20,000 a year, and we'll guarantee you that you're going to save at least that as, essentially a loan repayment over 10 years. So it's no cost to the town. So it kind of opens up the possibility of bringing geothermal back into the equation. This particular vendor that we consulted with can do in the time frame. There's currently an RFP out on the market, and they believe that geothermal is potentially achievable without vacating the building. So we've kind of reopened that, and that's back in the conversation. Town clerk hiring process. That is, Diane Bucco accepted the town's offer and actually started today. Her and Kirsten will overlap, where Kirsten will remain the town clerk until September 12th. Community preservation administrative assistant hiring process. So as you know, we were on a search for a community preservation commission assistant, where they have an available budget to them funded through CPA funds for administration staff. So we put together an interview committee who was Jeff Soulard, Joe Pessamato, and 2 representatives from the CPC. And they interviewed the 2 candidates who applied and landed unanimously on Tom Dolly, who comes to us. He's recently retired from the State Department of Local Services, and he has a long history there, in good standing, and has a wide experience, understanding of state finance, CPC, and most importantly, the gateway reporting system that the CPC uses for all their project reporting. We're also a recipient of the Massachusetts Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant. So we were recently awarded, through the efforts of our land use department, $60,000, $35,000 in FY25 and $25,000 in FY26, to develop a Miles River watershed action plan to help address the barriers to flow, low flow velocity, and nutrient inputs affecting the river's health. So this will help the town, promote the river's ability to provide the town with drinking water, freshwater habitat, and its current recreational opportunities. Comcast licensing agreement. So this is something that we've started negotiations with both Comcast and Verizon. This is something that only comes around once every 10 years for Comcast and once every 5 years for Verizon. This is very important in the town's communication plan, as it funds in its entirety the Hamilton HW CAM. So all the equipment you see here and the cameras and stuff are all funded through the capital funding that's provided to us from Verizon and Comcast, as well as the HWCAM's headquarters and broadcasting costs. Essentially, there's 2 negotiating points. It is on the per subscriber within the bounds of Wenham. The reason why they share these costs, these revenue sources with us, is for the town in turn gives them the license to run their wires within the town's public rights of way. So we get a share of each subscriber within the town of Wenham, and we also get a share of their gross revenue from ad revenues for viewers within the town of Wenham. So with cable subscriptions on the decline, to keep the cost, you generally is negotiated on per subscriber. So they want to keep the per subscriber cost the same. However, we have operating costs that we need to offset, therefore having to increase the cost, the share per subscriber. So that's where we are with that. The town uses separate counsel for that, and we are, those are currently underway. 24 Cherry Street. So this is a state-owned property in Wenham that has been abandoned since 2016, I believe. Is that right, Carrie?
About that time, yes.
And so we've been trying to work with the state for some time to get in contact with them, try to figure out what they're going to do with the property, because it was vacated back in 2016, 2017 due to structural deficiencies and was no longer safe to inhabit the home. It was an assisted living facility for the Department of Public Health, and the home has sat vacant, decaying since then. We have, with the help of representatives, got a meeting with DCAM, Department of Capital Asset Management, and Department of Public Health. I'm just reading this because they have all the acronyms. And the Executive Office of Health and Human Services have all been participating in the meeting. And 2 weeks ago, they went out to resecure the property. They had done it a number of years ago, but they went out and resecured it, confirmed that there was no rodent infestations, fixed any boarding up of the windows that needed to be fixed. They did highlight that the lawn is being cut routinely and will continue to do so for the parents in the community. They've removed the oil and the oil tank and its contents, and have disconnected the electrical service for safety. So now we're at the disposal. They want to, they are admitting that it's unlikely that it's going to get into the capital plan for the state anytime soon. So we're looking at several years, 7, 8 years probably out, to go the route of the state getting it into kind of bubbling up to the level that it gets into its capital plan, and they're able to do something with state funds. So it's leaving us with the alternatives of disposing the property, which can be, done a number of ways. One of which is the town to take possession of it. One of which is through an auction to a private investor, through a special interest group such as the Maple Woods developer, Harborlight. So, they provided us with about 7 or 8 different options that the state could pursue. I forwarded you a presentation earlier today, and that's going to come back probably at the next meeting or two, because I have told them that I will, we'll go over in detail with the board and kind of take the temperature on the board's input on what, if there is a priority and a disposal method that the board has. And, also, just with the board to understand that, this would be a market-driven transaction. So although the town may feel like what's in the best interest of the community is to auction it off to a group such as Harborlight and retain it as an affordable housing in our affordable housing stock, and bringing the home back onto enter the tax rolls would be ideal. It may just not be economically feasible because there are not enough units there to effectively turn a profit or to make the project feasible from a financial perspective. So it could range anywhere from something like that to a pure market transaction where it goes to a developer and it's redeveloped and sold as a single-family home. However, even in that scenario, it's better than, at least in my opinion, better than a decrepit building that is tax exempt, where this would be, a market rate home back on the tax rolls. Yep.
What's the lot size?
It's 3/4 of an acre.
So like 40,000 square feet?
I think it's 46, was it 43,280 is an acre? Is that right?
Here's,
43,000, it's about 30,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's about 30,000.
Thank you.
So anyways, that's just an update on that. I mean, it's the state, I will say that they're, they appear to be very flexible. DPH has full control of the property, and although they would prefer to keep it in their stock, they've essentially filed a form, I don't remember what the form's name, but a disclosure to DCAM stating that, they will, that they're going to designate the property as surplus, which basically opens up the ability for them to do, essentially whatever is necessary within the laws that exist to, move the property on and allow it to be developed. So they seem very eager to work with us, and we're making, good progress over the last couple of months. West Wenham Park redevelopment. This is something I wanted to get out in front of you. Kate and I did an interview with the new newspaper or a reporter from the new newspaper from Ipswich. So I think it'll be one of their first stories on the West Wenham Park. So, a few things on that. We've been getting a few questions internally from residents concerned about what appears to be a delay in construction. And, as part of the original plan to keep costs down, the DPW was always going to do a bunch of the site work. And it was always understood that the summer was going to be slow progress because that's the DPW's busy time. And as the weather starts to change, they'll be able to shift resources back onto West Wenham Park, which is still planned and still on track. So going through the costs that the DPW is unable to cover, with the consistent inflation and costs overruns, the costs have come in above where we originally expected. So the Open Space and Recreation Committee just voted on Thursday night to essentially modify the scope of the project to fit within what, would fit within the budget based on the cost overrun. So it's effectively the entire project is going to move forward as planned, with the exception of the playground and exercise areas are currently not funded. Will have to be phased in at another time if those are going to be completed. Health inspector. So we just had our health inspector submit her notice for retirement, or when I say that, about a few weeks ago. Her name's Bobby Cody. She is full-time health inspector in Marblehead and works for Wenham part-time. She will be retiring at the end of the month. We have reached out and currently in conversations with Danvers, Hamilton, Ipswich, and a private service provider to fill that hole that in the services that Bobby provided the town. So, we're close with a couple of them, and we think that relatively quickly we'll be able to fill the hole that is left when she leaves, at least with a temporary solution, possibly with the private service provider, as we continue to kind of weigh our options with maybe a regionalized effort, or whatever makes the most sense to the town. With the election update, I'll let Kirsten wanted to provide this, so I thought that made sense.
Hi, everyone. Kirsten Alexander, your town clerk for a short time more. So greetings, Wenhamites and Select Board. The state primary election is this coming Tuesday, September 3rd, from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. at Town Hall. We have our last in-person session of early voting this Thursday from 8 a.m. till 1 p.m. No excuses necessary, just come on in. Voters who are enrolled in a political party will get their party's primary ballot. Voters unenrolled in a political party can select which ballot, Democratic, Libertarian, or Republican they wish. Just a reminder, you only get one, folks. If you are one of the 681 voters who received a vote by mail ballot in Wenham, please return it by 8 o'clock on Tuesday, which is the day after Labor Day. We have only received 35% back so far. While you can use the mail at this point, I recommend that you drop it off with me at the clerk's office or after hours in our snazzy new ballot drop box by the back door, which the state is going to reimburse us for 100%. Please be sure to sign your ballot envelope where the red arrow is. Otherwise, we can't accept it. You may choose to vote in person early on Thursday or on Election Day as long as we haven't received your mailed ballot. For those who requested a libertarian ballot, just know that there are no candidates on it. That is not a typo. You can leave it blank or write in candidates. If you're going to be out of town on Election Day or otherwise qualify, you can apply to vote in person absentee up until 5 o'clock this Thursday, August 29th at Town Hall. And if you qualify, you're able to vote right then and there. In other election news, we are remeasuring the 150-foot line around the entrance to Town Hall, in which no candidate materials or electioneering is allowed on Election Day, if the candidate is on the ballot. The town bylaw 255-7.3 says no unattended signs may be left on public property. That includes in front of your house, on public property along sidewalks and street right-of-ways. Political signs must be within your private property boundaries. Also, assembled people cannot obstruct sidewalks in front of buildings per bylaw 215-1. If you have any concerns or questions on Tuesday or about elections in general, please contact me as the Chief Election Officer. I'll be here from 6 a.m. until midnight on Election Day with the police detail. Many folks are asking about voting in the presidential election on November 5th. The voter registration deadline for November 5th is October 19th. You can check your registration, update it, and request and track a vote-by-mail ballot through the State Elections Division at mass.gov/vote. mass.gov/vote. It all comes to a central database to us. I do recommend that everyone check their voter registration status, especially if you have moved recently. If you are listed as inactive, you most likely did not send back a census form this year. Don't worry, you are still a voter. But you'll need to confirm that you still live in Wenham. We have census forms printed out and ready for signing if you want to come by the office and reactivate all the voters in your family before Election Day. I'm pleased to say that former town clerk Diane Bucco is coming back as our town clerk, and she's in the office full-time now as we transition. I'll be certifying the September 3rd election, and we'll hand over the title and the town seal officially on September 12th. It's been a privilege to be in this role, not just as the town clerk, but also wearing the hats of Chief Election Officer, Chief Burial Agent, Public Records Officer, and more. Thanks to all who have helped me since I started in April 2023, especially everyone who has helped staffed and volunteered in the office, run elections and recounts, and kept the wheels of democracy moving. I've learned so much and met so many people. I'm especially grateful for all your care and concern since the sudden death of my husband, Jeremy, earlier this month. Once my term is up, I'm going to take the next couple of months to rest and recover. Thank you, and see you on Election Day.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kirsten. Moving on, DPW paving projects. I'm just going to run through kind of a recap on what the DPW has been able to accomplish this year and some of the upcoming work that will be wrapped up before the weather starts to turn. I think most notably on the completed work, I shouldn't say most notably, but one that has been plaguing the Bucher School for some time has been the driveway exit and the drainage over there. So Rich, by his own design, came up with what he believes to be a solution to that, which was a creative solution and was not very costly, where he had already had to resurface it and put the new curbing in anyways. He thinks that this is going to really help the drainage situation over there. Mayflower and Puritan Roads were both completely resurfaced. Cherry Street section, the Audubon to Old Town Way, were resurfaced, and those are completed. Dodge Row and Cherry Street, new curbing and improved drainage. Upcoming work that's still underway is Arbor Street. There'll be 2 crosswalks installed with ADA ramp installations. Cherry Street, 2 more crosswalks with ADA ramp installations. Monument Street, 1 crosswalk with ADA ramp. and Arbor Street is going to get approximately 700 feet of sidewalk replacement. Townwide line striping, where center lines and fog lines will be restriped in mid to late September to kind of cap off the season.
Before you move on off of DPW, are you done with the DPW?
Yep.
I just wanted to mention that I spoke with Michael McDonald, who lives on Bruce Lane and whose house backs up on the Bucher exit, and he wanted to express how pleased he is with the work that the DPW is doing, and thought that they had done a great job, and was very happy that the work was being carried out.
That's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. Definitely, kudos to Rich and his guys for sure. Rich was explaining to me on the whiteboard what he had planned over there, and I don't fully understand it, but it appears to have worked really well. Yeah, that's good. And then, we have, we can pull up the, and this is more just for the public, but there is the second annual Hamilton Wenham Volunteer Fair put on by the League of Women Voters will be held on Saturday, Wednesday, September 21st, 10 to 1 p.m. The Select Board's office is coordinating participation across our many boards and committees, and we'll be helping organize, how many tables we need and things like that to make sure that we are there and prepared.
So I take the Wednesday's a typo, I'm assuming? 'Cause
Yeah.
Saturday's the 21st, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say that I'm going to be out of town.
Oh, yeah, Saturday. So we'll probably bring this back. This will be back probably at the next select board meeting, where the board can, if they wish, assign individuals or pick time slots and have a more formal discussion, but just an update for now. And then we just received an email with someone who would like to donate some land, 10 Hilltop Road. So we're inquiring on the process on that. But just, we did get the email, wanted to keep the select board updated. And those are all the updates tonight.
Did we skip G?
Yeah, G.
Did we?
Special town
Special
meeting.
town meeting.
Oh, yeah, so we had about, I think, 140 participants in the poll. We put out a poll to see who was, planning on going to special town meeting. We gave the date and time. We had about 150 participants with about, I think, 80 saying yes, and a majority of the rest saying maybe, with a very small couple percent saying no. And so we basically put that out there because we were concerned with the capacity of the Bucher School and the potential turnout for the special town meeting, considering what is going to be on the warrant, which is the MBTA 3A. And we believe, and I spoke with Roger, but I think generally, we're going to be all right at the Bucher. We're going to maintain, we'll probably be bringing back to the board to select a backup date at some time in December, and maybe have that location at the Gordon College, which they've been amendable, right, to working with us to be in their sports section there that can house a lot more people. But we figure we can have seating for about 500 in Bucher, and based at I know it's just a poll and it's hard to reach everybody, but it's barely even a quorum responded. We think that we probably could house close to 4 times all the respondents, that the Bucher will be appropriate in this situation. So with that said, we're going to be moving forward with the Bucher planning, and the warrant's going to be coming out in the next, couple weeks. So yeah, we're moving forward with that. I think that's all of them.
Okay, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge a couple of people in town. So I'd like to recognize and thank Kristen Noon, who earlier this summer stepped down from her role as Executive Director of the Wenham Museum. Kristen brought visionary and transformative leadership to the museum and kept the museum afloat during the challenges of the COVID years. She leaves a legacy of thriving programs, a transformed exterior, and vibrant connections to the Wenham community and beyond. In addition, I want to specifically thank Kristen for all the assistance and support that Kristen provided to the town's master plan process, where she allowed us to host meetings and community engagement events at the museum, loaned us historic photos for our use, participated in technical sessions, and contributed her great insights and wisdom throughout the entirety of the 2-year master plan process. I would like to thank Kristen for her many, many contributions to Wenham and wish her all the best in her next endeavor. On a more somber note, I would like to acknowledge Jeremy Gross of Larch Row in Wenham passed away suddenly and tragically on August 3rd, 2024. Jeremy was a member of the Town of Wenham Human Rights Committee and the beloved husband of our town clerk, Kirsten Alexander. Jeremy was an active member of our community and of many communities, including through his long career as a Freemason and as an active member of his Jewish faith community, where he was working on a book about his Jewish identity. Jeremy was described as an intellectual polymath with an insatiable curiosity and the ability to retain volumes of information ranging from mathematics, writing, literature, computer science, geopolitics, and Judaism. Jeremy was a data science specialist, most recently working for Vets EZ in healthcare information technology. Jeremy was a lovely, kind soul who left this world and our community far too soon. He will be sorely missed, and we extend our deepest condolences to his family, to his wife, Kirsten, as she tries to process this enormous loss. Expressions of sympathy in Jeremy's memory may be made to the Yiddish Book Center in Amherst, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
All right, new business. It's a donation from,
Start here.
Yep.
Okay, let's have a discussion and potential vote to accept a donation from the state of Harriet Harmon Davis in the amount of $1,000 to be donated to the Wenham Fire Department gift account.
Do we need a motion?
Yes.
I move that the town of Wenham accepts the gracious gift from the estate of Harriet Davis in the amount of $1,000 to be donated to the Wenham Fire Department gift account.
Second. Any discussion?
Nope.
Okay, let's vote. Peter votes yes.
Deirdre, yes?
Ben, yes.
Karen, yes.
Gary, yes.
All right, moving on. Thank you, Harriet.
Gary, yes, sorry.
She has an amazing background. Discussion and potential vote on a one-day liquor license for Wenham Museum for a private event to be held September 12th, 2024, from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m.
Second. Or is that a motion?
We need a motion.
Oh, sorry. Yep, I can take that one. Motion to approve the one-day liquor license for the Wenham Museum for a private event to be held September 12th, 2024, from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m.
Second.
Roll call vote. Peter says yes.
Deirdre, yes?
Ben, yes.
Karen, yes.
Gary, yes.
Okay, moving on. Vote to amend affordable housing appointments of Judith Babrisky and Nicole Roebuck from terms ending June 30th, 2027 to June 30, 2026.
I'll move to amend the appointment of Judith Babrisky to the Affordable Housing Trust for a term beginning August 13th, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Peter says yes.
Deirdre, yes?
Ben, yes.
Karen, yes.
Gary, yes.
And I'll move to amend the appointment of Nicole Roebuck to the Affordable Housing Trust for a term beginning August 13th, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Roll call vote. Peter says yes.
Deirdre, yes?
Ben, yes.
Karen, yes.
Gary, yes.
All right. We're moving on to the presentation of master plan implementation by Kate Mallory and Steve.
All right. So before Kate jumps into the presentation, so, basically what we've done behind the scenes is, the master plan was recently concluded, and the town expressed concern with, what was going to happen when, the flag or the baton was passed from the completion of the master plan and implementation of the strategies and outcomes, goals, objectives that came out from that. And, one of it was to create a land use director, which Kate is our new land use director. And the other one was to take the 108 objectives that came out of the master plan and sort through them and put together, to what I believe a distilled template that breaks it down into, effectively 3 categories. And I believe these categories, achieve the most objectives, with, I don't want to say the smallest amount of effort, but like looking at it like, okay, what's achievable over, a period of time, and how can we accomplish the most of these objectives given the resources that we have. So Kate really did a lot of work in consolidating the 105, and a majority of them fell into what was pretty clear after you went through them, 3 main categories, and came up with proposals onto how to accomplish a bulk of those things. And with that is, it's not just the goals and objectives, but as part of it is, the town branding, and that's to kind of, try to create like a cohesive image that kind of brands the town and unites its residents and kind of reminds everybody, what the town is all about, what our goals and objectives are, what we want to be and what we're striving towards. So all of that is in this presentation that Kate is going to begin now.
Perfect. Hi, everybody. First, I'd like to thank Margaret Hoffman. Margaret, thank you. Thank you for getting us to this position. The town could not have done this without you, and you really did a great job with this master plan. So thank you, Margaret. You can go to the next slide. All right, so why are we talking about the master plan and branding at the same time? To me, this is a really exciting time for Wenham, honestly. We're getting a new website, which is really an exciting thing for communication through town. We got some funding for signage, so the signage will be arriving at parks and wetland areas throughout town soon. And the master plan, I said, was as I said, Margaret helped with that, has been accepted, and so now we're on to implementation. So they all kind of roll together. Next slide. So first, let's talk about branding, okay? We've never really done branding here before. It is a pretty special thing for municipalities to be able to do. So it really creates the official town identity, which we've really gotten from the master plan, and it unites the town message. So we're always hearing about communication and letting residents know what's happening in town, and this is the perfect way to start this. So branding, municipal branding, is creating a logo, a tagline, town colors, and typography. And so typography is like font and spacing and all that kind of stuff. So next slide. You can go to the next slide there. For us, I wanted to show you guys a couple examples of what a wonderful logo and tagline is. If you look at Salem, Mass, the first thing you think of when you go to Salem, you think of the witch's hat, like a witch. Their old logo was a witch, but they recently updated, and this is what they came up with, and I think it is just quintessential Salem. It's a sail and a witch's hat, which is perfect, and still making history. So that still really brings the past into the present and the future. So I thought theirs was really spectacular, and here's another couple of logo and taglines that I found that I thought were great. Next slide. Well, we already have a beautiful seal, and there's no doubt about that, being a conservationist, I love our seal and think it's beautiful. It does not differentiate us from other cities and towns. So we need the seal to be on all public, really formal documents, and have a logo for our signage and our website. So next slide. All right, so this is great. We already have the town colors. Select board members, if you look behind you, there's a beautiful flag with these colors on them. They were used in the master plan, and I think that they're great. We probably don't even need all these colors, so we're good there. And for typography, we actually just found out in our first website kickoff meeting that the designers through the website will help us through the font, the line spacing, and the design. So it really, all we need right now is the logo and the tagline, which is fantastic. Next. All right, so that's good with the branding, and now I'd like to go into the master plan implementation. So, I read the master plan like 300 times, and there's a lot to it. So we have one vision, which is really, it's quite poetic, actually. We have 5 core themes, 29 goals, and 105 strategies. So my thing is how do we move forward with these 105 strategies, ensuring that we're all working for the same goals, right? So you guys are the select board and you're telling us what to do. We need to make sure that we're all working through the same goals. The boards and committees are all working, the staff are all working together, and the residents are on board with this. And it's themed after the master plan. Next slide. So I started this by creating a vision board for myself of let's shrink down this very large document into what are, in my mind, smaller workable pieces. And so I kept thinking of this, the core themes are always connecting Wenham with each other. So connecting Wenham through preserving history, which seems to be very important in this town, making an inclusive community, balanced economic growth, infrastructure and services, and protecting resources. Thanks, Michelle. And so those were those core themes that I kept thinking about the whole time that I'm going through my head, trying to think of what we should be doing first, second, third, fourth. And so those words that are on the bottom right-hand side, these are things that I kept seeing throughout the whole report. Economic development, huge. Protecting nature, huge. Fiscally balanced, but then also green community. So there was a lot of things that were kind of fighting against each other, and how can we make it work so we can kind of give the community what they want within the next 10 years. Next slide. So basically how to go from 105 strategies, 29 goals, 5 themes, and 1 vision to implementation. So the consultants and the master plan committee gave us a lot of this great information. And so they gave us, with each strategy, the responsible entities, the funding, sequencing, and resources. So this was a great start, and this was always shown to be that this was going to be a flexible document and a fluid action plan. So it's an action plan, it's fluid, all right? And so okay, go ahead, next slide, sorry, Michelle. So the master plan did a great job at identifying the what we should be doing, so those strategies. But then I was thinking to myself, how do we identify the who, where, and when? So talking to a lot of people through this process, I narrowed it down to kind of 4 different strategies, 4 different categories of where I could rank the 105 strategies myself. So the first one, is this project even feasible? Is it suitable for the master plan? If not, why even do it? Will it have the impact that justifies the expense? So will the outcome justify the expense? When should it be taken on? Maybe it's the best project ever, but maybe it shouldn't be taken on for 6 or 7 years. So, and do we have the resources for it? So I ranked it all. Top you could get was 5. So a 5 and a 4 I considered really high, and then the rest were just scored lower. Next slide. So the exciting thing is looking through the whole plan, we already have 18 strategies in process right now. One of the most exciting ones that I find is the climate action and sustainability community. So they are working on getting behind the scenes, I think it will be coming up soon, getting their baseline for greenhouse gas emissions. So that's an incredible start for them, for the town, and looking for funding for a sustainable action plan. So awesome to them, they're doing great. Us as a town, we've been working with a company called Select to install ground-mounted solar at Iron Rail. This is one of those great possibilities we have. An Iron Rail study will be coming up soon. So if this was chosen to be done on the site, it would be on the site where the softball court is, or the Little League area is, but it's all by wetlands. So really, there's no value to that parcel of land over in this area, but it could stabilize energy costs for up to 60% of our current municipal load for 25 years. So it's a pretty cool thing. Save $100,000 too, but over 25 years, that's not the coolest. But all right, next slide. What else we are already doing? West Wenham Park is being created. You already heard about that today. And after the branding is done, we have CPC funding available to create educational signage at Reynolds Farm in West Wenham Park. And that is, again, with the branding. Once we get the branding done, we can get those signs done. Next slide. All right. So, this is all about the Heritage Tree Program. There was a lot of that in the master plan. We're strengthening the tree policy, hopefully this year and next year. We've got a senior work-off person working on that pretty regularly, which is wonderful. You guys had already given us more money for tree planting, so we're doing more tree planting. And we are revitalizing the Bucher pollinator garden through CPC funding, and that was spearheaded through our select board member, Deirdre Parati. Next one. All right, so other things that are already being worked on, the planning board has been working really diligently doing some zoning changes. So we all know about the MBTA 3A zoning change that is proposed to go forward at special town meeting in November. They are also working on the subdivision rules and regulations, so that is wonderful. That's the top two, side by side. And then they will be looking on accessory dwelling units soon because the state just mandated that. So my recommendation to you to keep in the back of your head is after special town meeting, we probably should have a meeting with the planning board to go through some of the zoning changes, the proposed changes, because there's a lot of them. Next slide. All right, so here comes the fun stuff of what we should do next. So we ranked the 105 strategies, and there were, as Steve had said earlier, there were 3 clear categories that emerged. Connecting Wenham's street network, economic development and housing, and consider development opportunities in Wenham's town center and Wenham's village. Next slide. All right, so category 1. This one is really interesting because it could be totally state funded if we do it properly. So it's called the Complete Streets Program. And what we would do is determine the gaps in connectivity and analyze street network focusing on highly used areas. So the master plan talked about walkability, cycling, traffic calming, blue zones, which is a really cool one. Blue zones is how do we make our cities and towns healthier for people. And I saw one quote which I thought was really cool is how to make the healthy choice the easy choice, right? And so this is how we would do that. With this project, it hit all core themes, so all 5 core themes were part of doing this. 17 strategies were included in this, and 11 of those 17 strategies I had personally ranked 4 or 5. So this is something that the community really, really wanted. This could be paid for by the state up to $500,000, and it would be great to connect the community. So that's category 1.
I'll just jump in real quick.
Yes.
Just, this is printed out in front of you in case you're wondering what it was. So this is the 3 categories that Kate's talking about right now. And the the primary goals addressed that's tied to the master plan along with the strategy associated with it. So just so if you're in your back of your mind wondering like what exactly of the 105 is he's trying to touch on, this is what we talked about, trying to consolidate it into a bigger project, touching as many as possible.
Instead of just doing one by one,
Yeah.
make it so. That's great. Great. All right, category 2, next. Economic development and housing. Through the master plan, Margaret can tell you, everybody was talking about the tax rate. We have already done some of this work through Cambridge Economics. I think it would behoove us to dig into it a little bit more. So really understanding the economic development opportunities in town and also coordinating that with different housing stock and how would that all go about happening. To do this, we would really probably need town funding and grant funding, depending on what grants that we can find to get this. It's not as slam dunk as category 1. It is, there is a possibility that the town would have to pay for studies like this and actually have plans paid for by the town. So this one was kind of a medium range plan financial wise. And the next one. Category 3, we heard a lot about how people wanted a town center, a place to be able to walk to, which goes back to category 1, and a place to be a community, to buy things, and to really make Wenham feel more of like a community. So my thought was, we keep hearing there's no parking here, and, we don't have the septic system here. There's wetlands behind the police station, so what do we do? Do we do a study? Do we do a vibrancy plan where we really think of, hey, is it someplace like, you look into maybe working with the Haleys and trying to buy a piece of their property, or other areas in town might be a better place where we could actually have a real downtown center and then bring in, again, more economic development, connect it to the community with walking paths and walkable, bikeable, all that kind of stuff. So this was the one where we would apply for grant funding. I don't know if we get it, but another area where people wanted to see work done. Okay, Steve.
All right. So move quickly before we discuss the branding, because this kind of plays into the next agenda item, which is the website. It's really, next steps. So Kate laid out, I think, 3 clear categories and some steps to at least moving towards achieving them. But, this is, kind of where, I've used this before, but, we can do anything, but we can't do everything at once anyways. So some of these, right, category 1 is, from what we can tell, probably I don't want to say the easiest, but the almost guaranteed funding source from the state. And, something that would probably be looking to pick up right away. Category 2 or 3 are, highly funding dependent. There are grants out there, but they are labor intensive to get. They don't come up all often, and they're competitive. So just because they come up and you apply doesn't mean you're going to get it. So that kind of skews the timing. And if we're in the midst of a complete streets project, we don't necessarily have the capacity internally to then handle, an economic development and housing study and the implementation and action items that come out of it. So it's going to be a bit of a juggling act. I think that the recommendation would be to move forward with complete streets and then, kind of keep our pulse on the grants for the other 2, maybe looking towards, at least establishing an economic development committee. That was a direct strategy that came out of the master plan, if that's something the board wishes. So they could at least get started in discussing it. But, I just wanted to put, a little bit of reality into the discussion that, we won't be able to do everything here, but, we can still do a lot. All right, now the branding. So before I get into talk a little bit about the branding and the timeline. Maybe does the board have any questions or comments for Kate? Because I think it's going to kind of make sense to roll from that slide into the website update.
I have a comment. There's that old sort of municipal cliche about master plans that get published and then collect dust on a shelf for decades. All of you that have worked on this have kind of like taken that and turned it on its head, because this implementation plan and the granularity of it, I think, is outstanding and is a model for how this should be done. And obviously the work still has to be done.
Right. Shelf is still there.
But the fact that the process itself, I realize, had that level of analysis and detail, but the fact that you've done this prioritization and kind of practicality exercise and picked the most achievable things, and the detail there is really terrific, and kind of shatters that old cliche. So thank you for all your
Also,
efforts.
on the website, what I'd like to do to keep us accountable is actually have progress on the website too. So it would have its own page, the implementation, and there's a couple other municipalities that I've seen that do that really well. And so I'd like us to do that too when we get our new website going.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Kate, because that's, I know, an enormous effort to sift through all of those goals and strategies and try to make some sense of it. And as much as I would love to just get everything done right away, because it's also exciting, it is a 10-year plan, and we do have to pace ourselves and think about capacity. So thank you for taking a very significant first cut at this.
Thank you.
I do have some.
Just so you know, I advised Kate that she wanted us to do that. And I said, do not.
I think it was great that Kate started it. Yeah, absolutely. I guess I have some questions on the spreadsheet and the methodology and so forth, but do we want to do that now, or you want to keep going? Come back to the details.
It's up to the board how granular you want to get.
Why don't you meet with her? And go through it.
I'm happy to meet with Kate.
Sounds good.
I just have one quick question. Where is the Haley property that you mentioned? Unfortunately,
Across from Pingree Park.
across from Pingree. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So the reason why I mentioned that property in particular is it's already zoned for business on part of it.
Well, I'm familiar with the property.
Okay.
Unfortunately, this town has a tendency of not using actual street addresses.
Yeah.
And so we're just assuming that we're knowing these generational properties.
Yeah.
So that's where I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks. Good.
All right.
All right.
Good. All right, great. Thank you, Kate.
Thanks.
Yeah, you want to pull up that other slide? All right, so the slide that was up before is really, it's a timeline that plays into the deliverables that I'm going to go into in a little bit. So we had the kickoff meeting was held last Tuesday for the website with Civics Plus. The presentation that was delivered to us by our project manager is in the packet tonight. We're not going to go through the whole thing, but really some of the key takeaways is that it's definitely we stressed a 6-month time frame, so it's about that, and they wanted to stress back to us that they could do it, but that we cannot be late. If they'll uphold their end of the bargain, but we cannot be late with any of our deliverables. That you'll see with the Gantt chart that they've built out that their resources are structured in such a way that a missing of our deadline could then, their shifting capacity to another project, could push our timeline months. So it's certainly an all hands on deck situation here. I think we're up for it, but it's definitely, there's a lot to get done in a relatively short amount of time. So the anticipated launch date of the website is January 28th of 2025. As I said before, it is although it sounds like a long way away, it's a pretty aggressive timeline based on all, up here you're looking at the timeline, starting here in August through, and then you can go to the next page, Michelle. To our launch date down at the bottom at the end of January. So a lot of steps, a lot of them have deliverables every step along the way. First set of deliverables that are due on October 18th is our town branding and symbol that Kate mentioned in her presentation. The timeline is part of it we have funding for, and we're funding it through a design consultant, which will, who's an artist, and will come up with these renders similar to like what you saw with Salem and Denver, and I think Melbourne, Australia was up there. So they'll be coming with proofs for the select board to review and select ultimately what our logo is. Now this is due to Civics Plus on October 18th. So we're looking to have a meeting on, I believe it was the 10th. The select board meeting has a meeting on October 10th, where we'll have public feedback and the select board to view these symbols. So that's a tight timeline because currently we're advertising it. We have to get our proposals back. We have to select a vendor, move forward with the contract, get the renders done, and get it in front of the select board and selected and submitted to Civics Plus by the 18th of October. We're also putting it on social media. We're looking for photos that can be on the website, just like serve as the homepage banner, different areas of the website. We're not looking to identify what pictures go where, but we're looking to get a bunch of pictures that you might have or residents have of the town hall, what you think Wenham is, and then the website committee can kind of go through and with input from the select board select the banner and kind of where the photo placings are. So we're not really looking to be like, this would be a great one on the front. It's like, let's just get a bunch of pictures in and we can go through them after. And then also internally, the committee as well as staff is going through all of our website pages and identify. We have 150 pages that is in our contract to migrate. So we have to go through all our website pages and get it down below that threshold. So basically identifying pages. We don't have to have 150, but I think we'll be able to pretty easily get it down below that 150 for migration to the new website.
Are these just landscapes
What do you
or
mean by
actual
that?
property? Or are you looking for photos of individuals and town events and?
No, I think probably, I think we'll take a look at anything if you think it's a good fit for the website, but I think generally it's going to be a picture that, is there, I don't say indefinitely, but probably realistically up there for, years. So it's like when you log into Wenham, town of Wenham, is it the town hall you see? Is it the, I don't know, trees or farmland or, you know what I mean? Like something that gives it the feel that everybody wants coming from the town of Wenham. Yeah, but it could be people, it could be events. So I think that we're kind of open at this point. We just want to gather the photos.
Does it have to be just one?
I don't know how many photos. I think it's more than one, but I don't know how many placings in the website, the layout and all that is coming.
Would probably be nice.
Couple what?
Insets would be nice.
What is that?
Well, if you get a big picture here and you got two little.
Oh, yeah.
Well, usually there's like a carousel now on a lot of websites
That's very
that
cool.
rotates, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that's all stuff we'll be looking at. So if you know anybody with pictures or you have pictures yourself, send them our way. We have it on social media requesting the public to, send us what they got, so.
You should hit up Stephen Kavanaugh.
Yep.
I'm
We will.
sure he's got a ton of pictures.
A question, within this schedule, is there any taskings that we need information from other committees or boards and so forth? Because
That's going to be more apparent as we move through the process. So that right now, we're operating under the assumption that every board and committee will maintain their page if they have a page on the website now. We may want to amend the information on there to make it more, I guess, less updating and more permanent. So things that need to be, like some of the webs, you can see over time when, commissions or committees or boards were active in the website and they were updating, putting things on there, and then, maybe nothing's been put up there for 6 or 7 years. So we're trying to streamline it so that.
The question, is there any tasks that the committees and boards have to have deadlines to do during this process?
I don't have any at this time. But then, I mean, one unfortunate part is the code red alternative, or reverse 911, is basically the text message communication database that we have it's like we can't really get a head start. So its timing with the end of January is already, in my opinion, too close to town meeting to have what we had hoped to have, like a large database already created, going through the tail end of the budget process to be able to communicate the new budget document, the warrant articles. So it's like, well, we're going to have the tool, but we're just not going to have anybody who's authorized us to contact them. They did say that some communities, through the select board, will opt to use, like we do have our database in Code Red, to send a one-time text saying, the town has migrated to this new platform. Please opt in as a way to get the word out. It's kind of like a one last, but again, it's, because generally people sign out, they opt in and give a certain, they opt in and, they give you permission to contact them about certain things, like just emergencies, all town events, agenda changes, things like that. So I guess you don't want to overstep and over-communicate.
Besides the branding, is there other decisions that the select board need to take between now and January?
I don't know.
Right.
I mean, this will be my first website recreation or design.
We can talk about it as you move through it.
Oh, definitely, but I don't know. Right now, like our action items where she was like, these are the things you have to get us in, by October 18th. So that's what we're
Looking good so far, huh?
hustling on.
Yeah.
So is October 18th the date by which we would need, or before that, we would need to submit any photos or new materials that we think might be good for the website?
Yes.
Like you'd want it by like October 10th or something like that?
Yeah, October 18th is the submission date.
Right. Okay.
Very exciting.
Yep. Really is.
We definitely heard a lot of requests for a new website during the master plan process, so I think this is great.
Our website kind of stinks.
It came up, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it did.
Right.
All right, discussion regarding the tours of Cutler School on August 13th and Manchester Memorial on August 15th. Pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah, I'll start off. I think those that were on the two tours, that the distinction or the contrast between Cutler and Manchester couldn't be greater. Cutler has served its purpose, but as the superintendent pointed out, there are just long lists of issues there that are both costly and drive the decision to build one new consolidated school. We went over to Manchester and saw the possibilities and hopefully what we achieve on an up-to-date school as far as security, flexibility in layouts and usage of the school, updated services for all the students, and, just a design that allows for 50 years of flexibility as far as changing room sizes, changing layouts, everything's on rollers and so forth. So very impressed with the school over there, and that is the same design team that we have on our proposed school as well. So I think the main point for the public is I think Superintendent Eric Tracy and the school committee is coming out with a series of short videos that going to give individuals, if they log in, a good view of what the issues are with our current schools and what the possibilities are to bring our system perhaps a little bit belatedly into the 21st century, get it up to date.
So, we had a new elementary school meeting last night, and there's some myths out there. Like, there's this myth that there's a river going underneath Cutler, which is ridiculous. And then there's also this whole idea of it's a mega school, and what the JCJ, the consultants, have done is they've actually created 3 neighborhoods in the school. So the first and second graders are going to be with themselves, and then the third and fourth graders are in a different part of the building. And there's this belief that, oh well, our people, those kids are going to have to walk a long distance. Well, if you actually see what kindergartners are doing at Winthrop, they're walking, they get off the bus, they go all the way back behind the school, all the way around, and then come in. And then, oh, by the way, they're going all over that building to get different classes, music, food. So one of the ideas was creating a day in the life of a first grader. And so getting really clever in terms of how we're going to just blow people away with how great this project is. And with a lot of video, we're going to start having now 3D concept pictures of what everything looks like. So I'm encouraged.
Are you also going to do what a day in life is now?
Yeah, I think that was the intent.
Oh, I thought you meant the day in life later.
Yeah.
We have the principal of Winthrop there saying, yeah, like my kindergartners, they get off the bus, they walk all the way around the back. And so what we're also going to do, we're going to have more forums. And guess what we're going to have?
Color.
Obviously, Cutler. I mean, Cutler's ridiculous. I mean, half the bathrooms don't even have sinks. Think about that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes, we went through Manchester, more and more subjects came up. Eric Tracy pointed out that in the cafeteria, new schools have vinyl planking, easily cleaned, sanitized, and so forth. We're spending tens of thousands on waxing floors multiple times during the year. So environmental problems there, cost problems, and so forth. So there's all these kind of hidden costs in our current schools because of the age of them and what they have available or the lack thereof.
And there's going to be a major marketing plan laid out. And Eric's very savvy on this, as are the consultants, as are the school. So.
Yeah, I would echo Gary's summary of the tours, and I think it was actually stunning to see the Manchester schools and what school design looks like now in the 21st century. I know I was amazed. I just had no idea sort of the enormity of the leap that we can make in so many different ways in terms of security, in terms of health and safety, in terms of educational environment, in terms of special education. I mean, everything from recess to lunch to basically every aspect of school life that you can think of can be fully transformed with the new designs of these schools. It's really stunning.
Same designer.
And I think it's important that all of our children in the 2 towns have access to a new school like that. I think the consolidation is very important, that it be equitable, and that everyone in the community have the opportunity to attend a transformative school like this could be.
And they've made a lot of smart changes, so if this is the property, and then you have, I forget what the lane is over here, where their residences. They used to have garbage pickup on that side. They've moved it all the way around the other side, so those people don't have to deal with that. Just been very smart.
The design is extremely thoughtful, detail-oriented. Everything was thought through. It's really impressive.
Is Manchester open at any point to have a open walkthrough by the public?
I think there are possibilities by video.
Yeah. Eric's doing videos of that. Of Winthrop, of Cutler, and then also Manchester Memorial. Shall we move on to continue discussion on finalizing the select board's public comment policy?
It's allowed, well, a couple meetings ago, the board had some continued discussion with Peter was not able to make that meeting, and we tabled it to further the discussion with Peter's input. I believe it was, we're going back and forth with whether or not they would be, you can speak once, whether there'd be, conversation back and forth with the board, or the board was just hearing out the individual. 2 minute per person was brought up, 3 minutes per person. You may speak only once, you may speak twice, but only after everybody else who's interested in speaking has spoken, and it's within the allowable time limit. So I just...
So, are you guys happy with this?
So at that meeting that Steve's talking about, I had a bit of a change of perspective, but now that I look at it again, so my concern was with number 2, the agenda item public comment. So what I had been concerned about is that there may be an opportunity basically at every agenda item for comment. But, and I don't know if I missed this last time or if it's changed at all, but this, where it says purpose, this comment period will be marked on the agenda. I mean, I guess I'm comfortable with that it would be apparent on the agenda which items you could speak to during the meeting as opposed to at the front end. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I think,
That makes total sense.
the way...
We could have benefited from that in this one.
I think the way we were thinking of, I mean, it could be done a number of ways, right? But I think the when we originally brought that up, the idea that they would be marked on the agenda, so there would be, essentially there'd be new business on like a consent agenda, where the select board would go through similar to the way they went through the, you went through the donation from state of Harriet Davis, the license for the one-day liquor license, just the ones that we essentially there are very minimal discussion, read the agenda item, take the motion, move on. So that would be one section of the agenda. And then there would be a section of the agenda that would allow for public participation. So it goes back to the boards, had brought forward a number of meetings ago, wanting to streamline the agenda by, I think Deirdre brought it up, by re-implementing or implementing a consent agenda. So this would allow us to implement a consent agenda to streamline, but then also have a section for public comment. We wouldn't have to have it at each agenda item being like, but yes, public comment, no public comment. It would be noted that, whatever the 1, 2, or 3 items that were in the new business for discussion would be reserved for public comment. And it can be taken before or after. And again, that's just, something I was thinking about, and we can evolve it over time if that doesn't work.
I like that idea. You probably want to put those items up front, and then our consent stuff at the back. Just boom, 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 boom.
like the minutes, like move the minutes up, like, or to the back and so then everything.
Yeah, ideally, the minutes can be in the consent agenda, and you
Yeah.
basically move the whole consent agenda, and all of those items
Yeah.
are approved at once.
Okay.
So we all okay with this?
I just have a comment on number 3. So number 3 seems to be there appropriately to cover situations where there's some very important issue that's in front of the select board where 10 minutes, wouldn't be an appropriate amount of time. There might be 100 people theoretically who want to speak to some really critical issue that's in front of us. And so 3 gives that flexibility as to the overall amount of time, and then I think I'm comfortable with the sub-bullets in terms of 2 minutes per person and the 1 minute rebuttal under certain circumstances. I think I'd feel a little bit better if it said after particular subject matter, maybe said particular subject matter or action item, because the way, when I look at that, I think of it, is that like a separate just listening session where we're allowing people to speak, but it's not actually an agenda item on which we're going to vote or take action? It almost seems like it's a separate thing of like, we're going to listen, and then later on, maybe we'll have an agenda item where we act on it. But I think there could be circumstances where where it's a listening session with a lot of public comment, and we're also going to make a decision that night. So I don't know if that, just in my mind, I think if it said subject matter or action item, it would encompass like all the possibilities of what that type of session might involve. I don't know if anybody else thinks that clarifies or confuses, but
Certainly can add it.
All right, if we make that one change, Dan?
yeah, and so I can make a motion with that change if it's acceptable to the board.
Yeah, before you do that, though, I just want to go back to number 2 again.
Yep.
So I guess I'm comfortable with number 2. My concern is if there's a lot of agenda items, so you have public comment at the beginning, and then there's a bunch of agenda items that are listed under agenda item for public comment. There's an efficiency issue in the conduct of the meeting, and we may not get many people coming, but you don't know, I guess. To me, number 2, the way I read it tonight, is there would be discretion involved as to which items we may want to entertain public comment at that moment, as opposed to just people speaking at the beginning of the meeting during the general open public comment, because nothing precludes people from speaking about any topic at the beginning, right? So I think
Right.
there should be some discretion as to where the number 2 category is used, and it's not just everything.
Well, I think the number, at least my interpretation of talking to Lauren, the number 2 category would be, it's at the discretion of the chair what category it's in. So it has to be on the agenda that we're going to allow beforehand. So the 48-hour rule applies. And it has to specify that, if you're going to differentiate between an open public comment at the beginning and then have specific comment related to agenda items on some but not others, you need to identify that on the agenda when you post it. And what agenda items are going to have the public comment is dictated by the chair when he or her sets their agenda for the upcoming meeting. And then the discretion that they have within the meeting is whether they're going to entertain public comment either before or after the board discusses the item, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So are you okay with the wording of number 2?
I'm not sure exactly says what Steve just said.
Well, we can try it, but I also see in number 2, I think public comment session, we can't actually require the speaker to stay on that subject under number 2, right? Under the open meeting law and so forth. So, and I'm just saying, I think it's up to the discretion of the chair, but the chair is going to have some limitations, knowing that 10 up front, and then, if we have 3 or 4, there's 10, 10, 10, another 40 minutes of
Right.
of comment periods that might occur. So, but I think this works. We can try it out, and we've certainly had a dozen different approaches to public comment over the last few years. So
why don't we do that? Make your change as amended,
Mhm.
motion as you're amended, and let's just get it into play, see what happens.
Works for me. All right, so I'll move that the select board adopt the public comment policy for the select board as written in the proposal provided in our packet, with one amendment, which is under number 3, adding the words "or action item" at the end of the purpose sentence.
second.
Discussion? All right, roll call vote. Peter says yes.
Deirdre, yes.
Then yes.
Karen, yes.
Gary, yes.
All right, so here we go. We go back to the sign. Move to approve, okay.
Oh, just an update on that. I don't think you're going to want to take the motion. So it is permanent. It's intended to be permanent. They're not sure what the signs are going to look like. They plan on maintaining them, but they're unsure how they're going to affix them to the ground at this point. There seems to be a lot of unknowns. They don't have a start date yet. As I said, the end date would be, effectively forever, but nothing's forever. So I think probably at this point I'll stay in contact with the museum, work with them. I said, we're probably going to want to, if the select board's going to authorize it, we're probably going to want to incorporate some of our branding into the sign. So, and then also look at, placement on the property, who's going to be responsible for what sort of upkeep and things like that.
So are you going to get back to us with that information?
Yeah, when it's available. It seemed like there was some delays in getting the signage and.
Motion for adjournment?
How about, can we fix the dates for the October, November, December? Or we're going to go with the every 2 weeks? Works out well, given our September schedule.
Well, let's just look at our dates if we could. I just want to make sure we're on track.
September 10th and September 24th. Right?
Yeah.
September 24th, I am out of town and unable to dial in.
Okay.
7, 10, and 24, right?
Yeah, and then October, I think we planned it that way. Then October the first week would be the 8th. Well, the first week would skip because it still stays in sync with the every other, and then falls in line with the first Tuesday in October to kind of reset the first and third Tuesday meeting schedule. So that works. And then obviously the 8th, October 8th, I said the 10th earlier for the logo, but it would be on the 8th.
Those dates are fine.
I just want to comment that I much prefer in-person meetings.
Okay.
I kind of hate Zoom.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of Zoom.
It was a summertime lark.
And, and maybe we go back and do it again
In the summer.
Right.
Yeah, maybe
Yes.
that's
Hey,
not
take the
bad.
summer off, Peter. Take the summer off.
Yeah.
So we're 8 and 22 October, 5/19 November. That's a
No, the 12th and the 22nd of November, right? Or,
Yeah,
no.
so
No.
the 8th and 22nd of October, and then
The 5th is election day. So you're going to want to move that out. It'll be messy in here.
So
For the 12th and the 26th?
that gives you 3 weeks in between, and that's going to push you in December up to Christmas week. So maybe just postpone to the Wednesday, the 6th and the 19th. That allows you to stay on schedule with the 2 and 16 in December, if you go every 2 weeks.
That works for me. It also avoids Thanksgiving week.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
So 6, 11, 6, and the 19th?
Yes.
And then also just, we don't have the date yet, but usually we're looking at the first weekend in December for the budget kickoff. However, we did get some feedback last year that folks wanted to split it up and try to do it during the week. So I don't know if that's still in play. But
So then December 3rd, December 17th.
Yes.
And we don't want one, then that's it? Or do we want one
That's it.
like the 30th?
31st.
As much
New
as I
Year's
would love to
Eve.
hang out with you.
Yeah, New Year's Eve, no.
All right.
2 in December is good.
Other plans.
All right, you guys ready for me to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right,
Second.
and our next meeting is September 10th at 6:30 PM. Roll call vote, Peter, yes.
Deirdre, yes.
Ben, yes.
Yes, Karen.
Gary, yes.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks, everybody.
yeah, thank you.
Joe. Casey, that's good work.